When you saw the domination that Khamzat delivered on Dricus Du Plessis, were you shocked? Were you surprised? What was your reaction as the fight went on?
I honestly thought that it was gonna be like that early on. I expected Hamzat to open up more. I mean, I kind of tweeted a couple of times when it was on that, it was a bit frustrating that there weren't many significant strikes landed. He was kind of tenderizing him and, controlling him. It was impressive from a control perspective, don't get me wrong, but of course, the main event of a pay-per-view, you kind of want to see a bit more intention to finish. That's what I would like to have seen, and that's what Hamzat's been all about. That's why people have been so excited about him, is because of how overly aggressive he is, like violent. It's scary to watch sometimes. And that was just kind of, I don't know. It seemed a bit of a safer performance. Maybe out of respect for Dricus and his strength and explosiveness and scrambling ability. But I don't know. I also thought Dricus didn't he, uh, he seemed unprepared for those positions. That was a weird thing for me. I was expecting him to be way more competitive on the ground. I thought he'd be able to create more space. I thought he'd be able to continue scrambles a bit more. I mean, there were certain positions. I think it was the second round. I know he moved around the fence. He probably did a lap of the cage, but he was kind of accepting of that position more than I expected. I thought he was going to be like so motivated to be hustling out and so expectant of that being the type of fight that he was going to be up against. It was kind of a weird one. I mean, especially because we had back-to-back spinning elbows. It ended a little bit underwhelmingly, if I'm honest.
It's so crazy because the people that have trained with both guys, like I've spoken to so many people from RDR to people that, have trained with Khamzat, like Haya Bohaya. A lot of them were actually picking Dricus Du Plessis to win here, survive the early onslaught, and come back. And now we're in this. I think fans were kind of like surprised with the fight that we got. We got the crazy stare down, and then it was kind of like just a one-sided domination. Just quickly want to bring up the stats as well before you go, which is 567 strikes from Khamzat, 37 of them significant, 21 minutes and 40 seconds control time,
Wild.
70% takedowns. Like, what are we looking here, man? Looking at here, this is like when a kid plays the UFC game or something, right? Like, this is like insane stuff.
I mean, it was overwhelming dominance, but it was frustrating that it was just, it wasn't there was not the intention to finish like there has been before. Even the face off and the stare down and the kind of the mean look that he has, like all of those things got me excited. And then we've got like kind of tap 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 punches, and I was just like, man, I really wanted him to open up and really kind of own this moment. I mean, he completely dominated. Don't get me wrong, and I do think Hamzat's much better at middleweight. Veronica said this while we were watching the fight. I think you've got to hurt him to slow him down. When he fought Gilbert, he got caught with a couple of shots. There was a clash of heads. He was, and I also think he was massive for welterweight, whereas middleweight, he's going to grow into this weight class. He's going to be a real problem. But there are also some real problems in this weight class for him. I mean, Reinier de Ridder, he's 6'4". He's a great grappler, great judo. If he's got the conditioning, he could be really problematic over 5 rounds. There are a couple of other good grapplers in the division as well, but I don't know. It was frustrating to see it. It was so one-sided. I really thought Dricus was going to give, scramble more, be able to break free a little bit more. We had moments towards the end of the fight, but he didn't really ultimately push Chimaev's conditioning at all because he was quite accepting of some of the positions, and obviously Hamzat was in control.
Mm. What do you want to see next for Khamzat? You mentioned RDR. There's RDR out there. We got Kaio and Imavov fighting shortly. We've also got Anthony Hernandez coming off a performance of a lifetime against Elidze. If you were to pick someone that you think would give Khamzat the hardest fight, he wants to go again in October, which one of those guys would you give him?
Man, that's a tough test. That's a tough question. I mean, I would say Hernandez looked fantastic. Absolutely, he did. I kind of feel a little bit like that fight might go a bit, kind of Kevin Holland. He's able to control and suffocate, and Hernandez is a very, very durable fighter in the early rounds. He's able to push on and get real strong later in the rounds, but he would ultimately have to keep pushing and causing problems for Chimaev on the floor. I think Reinier de Ridder with his size. I mean, what is he, 6'4"? I think he's really, really problematic. He's got a very good guard, very tricky guard. There was one fight that I can't remember the guy's name now, when he was fighting at light heavyweight in one championship. An incredible triangle from guard bottom, like an awkward kind of Z guard position. Somewhat, some jiu-jitsu experts out there will know exactly what it was called, but it was just super slick, and you don't see that kind of stuff in MMA generally. And he's got one of those kind of guards. So, he's probably the toughest test right now for Chimaev, both size wise, ability maybe to launch Chimaev with, with some judo tosses on the way down instead and landing in top position, and also being able to cause problems from the bottom, both with his butterfly guard and with his sub attacks. He'd probably be my number one pick right now.